Chip, let me give you something.
Sorry to see somebody else.
Hey, Ben. Thank you. Chris said I cleaned up pretty good.
I try not to bump Going in the
Going to bed? What's his name?
No.
Everyone can find a seat. I'd like to welcome you all tonight. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for what we think is going to be an outstanding evening. And hopefully we'll have many more of these to come. I'm Stuart Hobbs. I'm president of the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame and also the Sampson County Sports Club. And we welcome you tonight for a night that we're going to induct 5 outstanding individuals to the first ever Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame. At this time, I'd like to recognize Reverend Hugh Cameron, who's going to come forth with our invocation.
It's a wonderful reason that we gather tonight
to give thanks to God for health and strength, and also to honor these 5 special people who've been coaches and athletes who've shown by their examples what it means to be a special child of God. Will you join me in prayer? Oh Lord, we gather this evening to honor you and give thanks for your creation, men and women. The Bible tells us we've been made in your image, thus there's a bit of the holy in each of us. Tonight we give thanks for our 5 honorees and their lives of challenging mind, body, and spirit to be the best that they could be. Many people, both young and old, have known these athletes and coaches and have been encouraged to do their best by the example that they've set. As we celebrate these tonight and sharing the excitement of their being inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame, we realize all their sports ability and the spirit to excel was a gift from you. Thank you, Lord, for their putting into good use these gifts of body, mind, and spirit. And as we celebrate with good stories, good laughter, and good food, we give you thanks for the blessings of hope. In sports, there are many times of darkness. But in the darkest night, in the worst ball game played, or the biggest loss, always there's been the hope and the assurance of a better next time. We've come to learn that whether we have won or lost a game, the more important part is the character and the good sportsmanship learned. Tonight we honor these athletes and coaches for giving their best and challenging us to our best. Now bless our storytelling, our sharing, our time together, and the food. Use all of these to strengthen and empower us to always offer hope. For it's in the name of God, our Creator, that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Cameron. This time we'll begin our dinner. I'm going to ask at the head table our special guests, inductees, and their family, if they would go first. We'll be having a buffet line at the back. And then after our special guests have gone, you may fall in behind them in line and we'll partake in dinner. Hope you enjoy your meal. Continue eating, make yourself at home. We want to go ahead and get started because we do have some guests that have traveled a long ways to be here tonight for this special occasion, and we want to get them back on the roads so that they may get home safely. Again, it's an honor to be here tonight. We appreciate everyone coming to honor these outstanding gentlemen for their service to not only to Sampson County but across the nation in athletics. I want to tell you a little bit about how this all got started. Mr. Bess Turlington, our distinguished gentleman down here at the front, is the brainchild behind the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame and the Sampson County Sports Club. He has worked extremely hard in order to make this night possible. Miss Ann told him that he started another project. His clothes will be out on Cahary Drive the next day. So if y'all see any clothes out on Cahary Drive, you know what, he started another project. But 2 years ago, Mr. Fest contacted myself, Coach Nathan Gay, Mr. Dale Johnson, Coach Bobby Robinson, several people in the community about starting Sampson County Sports Club so that we can recognize outstanding accomplishments in athletics in Sampson County. So in 2001, we started the Sampson County Sports Club. We meet 4 times a year, and basically what we do is recognize outstanding accomplishments in athletics and in sports in Sampson County. We recognize all county football teams, volleyball teams, basketball, softball, and baseball. From that, and we also just get an opportunity to get together and talk and share memories. We've had some outstanding speakers at our club. Mr. Bobby Purcell, who's here tonight, who's Executive Director of the Wolfpack Club. We've had Coach Kenny Bass, who won state championships at Hardison. We had Ricky Knowles, outstanding football player at Union High School and the North Carolina State Wolfpack. We've had Chris Warren, who played baseball at Midway and Campbell, and then on later with the Baltimore Orioles Association, Boston Red Sox. We've had several outstanding people to come, and one of the things I would like to do tonight is invite you, if you have not joined the sports club, to please think about joining. It's only $25 a year. We don't do any fundraisers. We don't ask for any more money. We just ask for $25 just to pay for plaques and trophies when we recognize all county players of the year and coaches of the year. But we meet 4 times a year. The next meeting is December the 4th at the Walker Bellamy Center at Royal Lane. So we invite you to come out. There will be some applications out on the table. If you're interested, please pick one out and you can forward that back to me. From the sports club, we wanted to take it a little step further. So Mr. Fest said we needed to start the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame. We talked with some other people in surrounding counties and surrounding cities. Mr. Greg Park from Federal Sports Club shared with us their successful Hall of Fame that they did a year ago. And so we just took bits and pieces and we tried to do something that we felt like was special, that we could give back to the community, and also that we could recognize these outstanding people for their accomplishments and what they meant to Sampson County. There's been some outstanding athletes that have come out of Sampson County. You know, a lot of times you think big athletes come from the big cities, but a lot of times your big athletes come from a small town. And so we wanted to recognize these outstanding people. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna introduce the master of ceremony because I want to give an opportunity for these gentlemen behind me to share all their outstanding accomplishments. Again, this is something that we hope to continue in years to come. There's a lot more people out there that we can recognize, and we hope that we'll be able to do that in the future. At this time, it's a great honor that I introduce someone very special to me. He told me not to say a lot about him, but he did want me to make this remark that Terry Holland is where he is today because Dale Johnson passed the ball all the time. So, Terry, I just want you to know that he said that. He said him and Jack Murdoch passed you the ball all the time. That's why you are where you're at. But it's a great honor that I introduced our MC for tonight, Mr. Dale Johnson.
Welcome to the induction ceremonies for the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame. These persons here, the inductees, are admitted based on excellence in athletics, which has brought substantial recognition and esteem to themselves in the Sampson County. As you came in the door tonight, you probably saw the plaque that was there on the right side. That plaque will be in the Sampson County Museum of History on Elizabeth Street. That also was started and headed up was brainchild of Bess Charlton. And again, thank you, Bess, for that. The I want you to take a few minutes, and if you come up with any ideas or suggestions for either the Sampson County Sports Club or the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame, please let us know. At the head table tonight, we have Mr. and Mrs. Seal Caruso. Mr. Caruso, Mrs. Caruso, would you stand for us, please? He was the principal and head football coach in the mid-50s at Flint High School. Had a lot of great athletes. I'll have my wife Diane stand up too. She's my coach. The left end, we have Mr. Purcell Jones, who was a coach here in the early 50s. Headed up Camp Moorhead and was a great athlete in himself, Flint High School. That's his younger brother, Steve Jones, with him, and Fess and Ann Charlie. There are always people to thank. I'd like to thank Gene Bellamy, Marilyn St. Pierre, Roxanne Parsons, Ann Turlington, and Jeannie King for helping tonight. They did a lot of work. We appreciate you very much, ladies. There are a few other people who made a long trip to get here to Flint tonight, and I will introduce some others later. But I want to introduce Bobby Purcell, Executive Secretary, North Carolina State Wolfpack Club, over Clinton Board. Where are you, Bobby? Stand up. Thank you. Alan Caldwell. Alan, stand up. He is a co-captain from the University of North Carolina Tar Heels with G. Holland. Came all the way from Winston-Salem, ladies and gentlemen. Ricky Packard, great Clinton High School All-State player, University of North Carolina, last 185-pound linebacker in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference. I will introduce some others later. The first presenter is Dennis Bellamy. Dennis is the son of Gene and Walker Bellamy. He's a Clinton High School graduate. He earned a recreation degree from East Carolina in 1979. He joined the Recreation Department of the Marine Corps Air Station as Assistant Athletic Director, and he's progressed to the position of Athletic Director in 1986. He is a recreator by birth and by choice. He is the proud husband, 3 children, who all are the apple of their grandfather's eyes. He's proud of his heritage, and I'm proud to introduce Dennis Bellamy, presenter, choir inductee.
Thank you, Dale. Dale has told me 4 different occasions tonight. Remember, it's 20 minutes for both of you. So I said, fine, 10 minutes, that won't be too bad. But my partner here has asked me to make my speech 19 minutes and 45 seconds. So if I get long-winded, don't worry. He's only going to have a short speech. What a great night to be a sports fan here in Sampson County. When I first heard y'all started a sports club here, I thought that was great. And now you've gone to the next level by having a Hall of Fame induction with the plans of doing the Hall of Fame good within the next 2 years. I'd like to thank the sports committee for allowing me to be part of this special night. And it's a bigger honor to be able to introduce to you one of the first inductees here in the Sports Club Hall of Fame. This person is very special to me, and I might be a little prejudiced, but I think he's very deserving of this honor, as well as the other 4 inductees here tonight. He is Walker Bellamy. He's known as Mr. B to many people, and of course to me he's known as Dad. Walker was born in Wilmington, 1930. He had an older sister, Martha, and a younger sister, Fran McMillan, who was married to the late Dr. Sam McMillan, and we're very glad to have her here with us to celebrate with her brother on this very special night. They moved from Wilmington to Ryuse Beach and lived 1 block from the ocean. He had a summer paper route, but he soon progressed and got another job as a lifeguard. He attended New Hanover High School, where he played football and he was an offensive lineman. He had a great passion for football and he wanted to continue, but Uncle Sam recruited and enlisted him into the Army for 3 years. After being released from the Army, he attended Campbell College. It was at Campbell College where he met the woman of his dreams, Jean Parker. She had 4 beautiful sisters, so he always liked to visit and enjoy his visits with her. But more importantly, Gene was a great cook. So in 1954, they were married. They've been married for 49 wonderful years, and next September they will be celebrating their golden anniversary. And you're all invited to attend, and this would be a prime and great place to have it. So just remember, September.
Start cooking.
After they were married, they moved to Rocky Mount, where Mr. B became a railroad detective with Atlantic Coastlines. He became very intrigued and fascinated with train sets. I was born in 1955, and for my first Christmas, Santa Claus brought me, or I say he brought my dad, an electric train that I got to play with when I was 5 years old finally. After 3 years, he was laid off from Atlantic Coastlines, so our family moved to Clinton, where he and his dad started their own business called B&B Gulf Service. However, he never lost his desire for football, and he got his chance to coach as an assistant at Roseburg-Saddleburg for 3 years. He coached the offensive and defensive line there. His next chance for coaching came when he and Glenn Clark went as a package deal to Midway High School when they filled in for Walter Reagan. He coached there for 1 year. Next coaching job was as a volunteer in the recreation department, where he coached the Little League Wake Forest team. 3 other well-known volunteers that he coached against were Glenn Clark, who coached Carolina, Ed Taylor, who coached Duke, and Robert Hill, who coached State. Coach Bellamy helped lead the Wake Forest Demon Deacons to 2 straight back-to-back winning seasons, and he still recalls some of those players who played for him. Some of those went on to play college. One was Jim Woody, who played at East Carolina as a kicker. You had Kermit Williamson, who's here tonight, Glenn Spell, Bobby Purcell, Jeff Bell, and myself. But probably the most memorable player was Kerry Taylor, who is also here tonight. Kerry was always smiling, so Coach Bellamy gave him the nickname as Smiley. At one of our games against Carolina, we weren't playing up to his expectations, so he had given us all a Hershey bar to help our energy level for the second half. And to get us, he was giving us this motivational speech and getting us all pumped up for the second half. When all of a sudden he stopped talking, we looked and he was staring at Kerry Taylor. Of course, Kerry was smiling as usual, but this time he had taken his Hershey bar wrapper and had made an airplane and was flying it up and down. So we didn't know what to expect from our coach back there, but he just looked at Kerry, smiled, he said, "Okay, boys, let's go drop a bomb on him." So this seemed to ease the tension for us. We got motivated, and we came back and won the game. So Glenn Clark, I don't know if you're here or not, but that is a true story. It was obvious that he had a love for children. He is involved in Boy Scouts, and also was a member, was a director of our Red Blood Club, and every Christmas he was Smokey the Bear in the Christmas parade. In case any of y'all didn't know, that was him. In 1965, he was hired as the recreation director here for Clinton. At that time, he had 1 assistant, and there was 1 recreation center, Fisher Drive, which had 1 field where that field accommodated football, Little League baseball, and adult softball. The Recreation Center department was funded partially by the city and by donations from the civic clubs. His yearly salary at that time was all of $5,400, so needless to say, he was not in the profession for the money. In 1970, 2 milestone events happened in the Recreation Department. The first was the city of Clinton and Sampson County worked out a joint financing arrangement making recreation available to all the residents of Sampson County on the existing facilities and agreeing to jointly fund future facilities. The second milestone was when Larry Bell was hired as Daddy's assistant and also athletic director. He and Mr. B became a dynamic team. In fact, they spent so much time together that he considered Dad his dad, and also he was a brother to me. So therefore, I was no longer considered the only child. In fact, the stories of being the only child and being spoiled didn't actually follow true in my case ever since that Dad became the recreation director. When I left College Street School, if I wanted a snack, I had to either ride my bicycle or run as fast as I could to Fisher Drive to get some money for the snack machine, to get a candy or a drink. But usually, by the time I got there, as everyone knows, Mr. B has a heart of gold. He had given his last dime to what he considered all his children. There was no dollar bill slots to put a dollar in to get change, so most of the time I went without. But they were all his children. So I still wonder this day how he fed all those children on $5,400 a year. My mom, she learned to share Dad along with myself and all the other close family relatives. Mr. B did not know what an 8 to 5 job was. He actually went to work at 8, but he didn't come home until the last ball game was played that night. His favorite saying was, to love recreation, you must eat and sleep recreation. And if you'd seen him that time, you know he did most of the eating instead of sleeping. I always told that the story, the reason I was so skinny was that when we got home late that night after the last game, he was starving to death. My mom had great food, so he gobbled his food down, and if there was any extras left on the pot, then he gobbled those down too. So along with that, and not getting any snacks after school, there was no way I could gain any weight. During his tenure as the recreation director, Mr. B saw the recreation department go from 1 to 14 full-time staff members, 29 part-time summer employees, and from 1 recreation center to 8 playgrounds, 5 recreation centers, an amphitheater, 2 swimming pools, a softball and baseball complex, and a paved track field, 1 miniature golf center, and 8 tennis courts. In fact, at one time, Clinton High School used the recreation department's tennis courts, their baseball field, and their softball field for their high school home games. Mr. B will not admit to this, but I can't help to feel that his athletic leagues were a great feeder program for the Clinton High School's great reputation and great record they have here across the state. However, his lifelong dream was to have a multi-purpose facility. In September of 1994, his dream became a reality. Along with Mayor Emsley Kennedy, they snipped the ribbons of the $500,000 facility that bears his name, the W. Walker Bellamy Recreation Center. The facility contains approximately 11,600 square feet, which includes a basketball court for indoor basketball, volleyball, and other indoor activities, a meeting room, lobby, conference rooms, restrooms, kitchen, and is the home of the Golden Age Fun Club. Although it was Mr. B's dream, it was the efforts of the city and the county, the senior organizations, and private organizations who funded this project. So in his words, it was just good old-fashioned teamwork. For Mr. B, recreation was all about the kids and teaching them teamwork and participation and not just winning. His philosophy was that any kid who came to practice played. It became a hallmark of his administration. It's been said that this philosophy has touched the lives of thousands of kids who grew up in Sampson County, who might not have been the best ball player at the beginning, but they stuck it out and later blossomed into outstanding athletes. I can't recall more than a couple of Friday nights in the last 30 years that he's missed a Clinton High School football game. He looked forward not only to the games, but the companionship with his traveling crew, which consisted of Dale Johnson, Coach Bobby Robinson, Steve Cox, and Robert Hill when he wasn't coaching. However, I think their biggest enjoyment and biggest decision they had that night was not only who was going to drive, but where they were going to eat before the game or after the game. I've always been my dad's #1 fan. He's always been my hero. There's one particular event that I will never forget. It was about 40 years ago when our family was on our vacation at Carolina Beach. We were all swimming about waist deep when all of a sudden the undertow became very strong and started taking us all out. We all struggled, and I thought we were all in until I looked back and saw my mom's youngest sister, Frankie Tindall, who was here with us tonight. She was in her early 20s at that time. She was starting to go out deeper and deeper. So my dad started swimming out after her. Sprunk Hill and I, who had gotten to shore, ran to the end of the beach to see if we could find the lifeguards. We finally got the lifeguard team back, and what seemed like an eternity, the lifeguard team went out and we could barely see them. They just looked like little dots. But they finally got them back in, and the first thing my dad asked for when we got to shore was for a cigarette. My aunt was still in shock, so they were both taken to the hospital, and it was later learned that because of his lifeguard skills that he saved the life of both her and himself. He had to kind of, as he said, fry her jaws or give her a little pop to jaws to calm her down at first. And then he talked her into floating on her back while he treaded water in the deep ocean for about 1 hour. He constantly told her they would be okay. And when they got in, like I said, he just wanted a cigarette. But Aunt Frankie still remembers that day, and I think she'll always remember it. He has been such a great role model and mentor to me that when I graduated from high school, I wanted to follow his footsteps, so I went into the recreation profession also. Two of his favorite sayings that I've always heard him say and I've used and tried to share with my family are, once a job has begun, never leave it until it's done. No matter whether it's great or small, do it well or not at all. The second one is, winners never quit and quitters never win. How true they both are. Another highlight in my dad's life was 15 years ago when I married Donna. He now has 3 grandchildren. One of them was named after his mother, Rachel Page, they're all very dear to his heart. And of course, they all think he's Superman and that he can do anything. Of course, they're right. Mr. B was a former JC and has been a member of the Lions Club since 1966. He was the president of the Lions Club in 1993. He has been a member of the North Carolina Recreation and Park Society for 30 years and the National Parks and Recreation Association for 26 years. Mr. B does not believe in individual awards. However, he has won many in his career. I'd like to touch on just a few. One that is very dear to his heart is when he was the first recipient of the John Bradley Hale Service to Youth Award in 1977. He received the Youth Service Award from Clinton City Police in 1979 and also the Youth Service Award from the Clinton High School Athletic Department in 93 and 94. In 1990, he was awarded the Who's Who in United States Executives. He was the Lions Club Region Chairman in 91-92 and the Lion of the Year in 95-96. This past June, he received the John F. Stickley Award, which is the largest honor the Lions Club can give to one of their members. In October of 1993, the North Carolina and South Carolina Joint Recreation Conference that was held in Myrtle Beach, he received the North Carolina Recreation and Park Society's Meritorious Award. I have to tell a short story at this incident. Since it was a joint conference, there was recreators from both states, North Carolina and South Carolina. As the awards were starting to be presented, it started to drag on because each recipient was thanking their kindergarten teacher all the way up there to college professor. And here we are at Myrtle Beach. We know we have a band waiting for us and wherever else you can go in Myrtle Beach. And we knew we could go once it concluded. Mr. B's award was the most prestigious of the night, so his was scheduled for last. So the time finally came for him to go upon the stage, receive his award, and give his speech. His speech was all of 4 words. Thank you very much. You should have seen the standing ovation he received. As he was going back to his seat, he was getting all kinds of high fives and close. That's the best speech I've ever heard. And boy, the whole rest of the night, people just kept coming up to him. They were so glad to finish that night. So if I've gone on too long, just think that's what you got forward to look to from the recipient. Dad, this is your special night, but I have to recognize someone else. You've always said, behind every good man, there's a superwoman. And your wife of 49 years is her, Jean Bellamy. So Mom, this is also your night as well. Thanks for sharing Mr. B with Sampson County. It is now my pleasure and honor to present to you one of the recipients of the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. B, or Walter Bellamy.
place. It really means a lot. It really does. Thank you.
Mr. Bellamy has been my father to a lot of people in here. He's responsible for a lot of those wins that Bobby Robinson and Bob Royce got at Clinton High School because of his outstanding program. He spent a lot with me over the years. A lot of people used to say me and Dennis looked alike, and they always said Dennis was better looking. Mr. Bellamy, as president of Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame, it is my honor to induct you to the November 5th, 2003 Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame.
And I am proud to say that I, along with some other friends, have had the opportunity over the last 30 years to go to over 450 Clinton High School football games in Walker. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I look forward to doing it again. Our next presenters are Bill Dooley and Jimmy Byrd. Coach Bill Dooley is a legend at the University of North Carolina and also at Wake Forest. He coached at both institutions. He is now doing some coaching in Wilmington and resides in the Riceville Beach area. He's from a football family, and he was the head coach for our inductee. Jimmy Byrd coached at Holland, knew our inductee well, have a great deal of affection for him. Jimmy recently retired from the high school coaching and is enjoying his retirement in Fayetteville. Coach Dooley, come forward.
Not Coach Dooley, Coach Byrd, okay? Well, I'm just a great honor to be able to be on stage with such a fine gentleman. It's a great honor to be able to recognize D. Hardison. But before I get into it, a few things I need to talk about myself. I coached for 30 years in Sampson County, and right now I got to thinking about it. As many athletes they had in Sampson County, it would take me 100 years before I got inducted, and I'd be 158 years old. So I might not get enough a chance to do this, so I'm going to just tell you about how good I was and how good I coached. That's not what I'm going to talk about there. But I hadn't stood in front of a crowd like this a long time, and been a couple of years I taught school, and if I could get 4 or 5 of you people in the front to lay your head on your desk like you were asleep, that's what my uniform most of the time, I feel a little more easy. I won't be happy and nervous. They told me you couldn't tell jokes. I asked Dr. Hobbs about one, and he wouldn't say, so I run it by a couple of young ladies, and they didn't think it was real bad, so I'm going to tell you, if it offends anybody, I'm sorry. Not really, but it's football season. These two young guys went to a football game one day and sit down, and right in front of them was about 8 or 10 nuns. They were dressed up with big hats, and they couldn't see the game. And they kept trying to look, and they'd stand up. And finally one of the guys said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to move to Washington State. They don't have 10 nuns in Washington State. The other guy said, I'm going to do better than that. He said, I'm going to move to Texas. They don't have 10 nuns in Texas. One of the nuns turned around and looked back at him and said, why don't you go to hell? They don't have any there. That's not real bad. I know a lot of these guys. Roosevelt, that wasn't too bad. Okay, thanks. Nathan Gay, Walter Bellamy, Coach Holland. I don't know him personally, but I've seen him on TV a lot of times. Coach Davidson, Coach Virginia. Every once in a while I'd pull for him. But when he was playing in Carolina, I probably didn't. I probably said some bad things about him. I couldn't tell. And Nathan, the reason Nathan moved here is because of people like me. First year I coached football, I got out on a pretty good team, and he wore us out. Of course, I was young, didn't know anything, and I didn't realize that Mary McLaurin and Roosevelt Wright was officiating the game, and that's half his wins right there. And Mr. B, as they call him, I worked at the recreation department coaching Summer League baseball for about 15 years from Hoffman High School. And all Mr. B could say was Byrd, that's what he called it. Byrd, don't be stuck up on the umpires.
So one day I was sitting there getting ready to play a game, and up come Mr. B. He said, Byrd, leave the umpires alone. You can't be laying flat on the ground third base while they're calling behind the plate. It intimidates me. I said, Mr. B, I was just trying to see that low strike they were calling. He said, well, leave them alone and don't mess with them. They don't get paid much anyway. I said, paid? Hell, I don't get anything. You mean you pay those guys? I thought they done it free. I need to get on what I've got to do. How many more minutes, Steve? About 5. I met D. Hardison in 1972 when I went to Holland High School to replace Archie Brigham as football coach. I coached football and baseball. D was a sophomore at the time. He was playing during basketball season. He played basketball on a JV team for the lady Ed Smith. D was about 6'4", 6'5", weighed about 225. A great young man. If there's ever been somebody that was too nice in school, he was too nice. Great heart, yes sir, no sir. I got to know D on the spring that year, the sophomore year, and come out in the junior year, started a football team. I had 18 boys on the team. But I had D. Hardison. I said, well, he's the biggest and the fastest I got, so I'll put him in the backfield. I put him in tailback, put him in the linebacker. But he hadn't been so nice, we could have been a whole lot better. I just couldn't get him lean to do it. But he would knock them down, and pick them up, knock them down. I said, D, try to hurt somebody. I can't hurt nobody. But he'd always been big, and always been strong, so he always had to take care of little people. But he had a great junior year. I think the highlight of the junior year was we played North Newport the last game of the season. And me being from Facein and went to North Newport, I wanted to win. So we talked and I prayed and I begged D. I said, play a little tough. So he did. He went out in the game 225 yards, scored 3 touchdowns, and we beat North Newport 20-9. Of course, they went on to win the state championship, so I think that inspired him too. During the spring, the story about D during the spring was junior year, after football season, D wanted to play baseball. We didn't have track, so D came out for baseball. And I said, well, he's big and strong. But that was the worst baseball player I've ever seen. After the first day, I threw the bat in practice, and he couldn't hit, he couldn't catch. I said, D, I tell you, back then when we first started, you didn't have any courtesy runners, pitchers and catchers. I said, D, you can't catch, you can't hit. If we had some courtesy runners, you could run for the pitcher and catcher when somebody got on base. I said, but you can't steal first, so we can't have it if you don't hit. So I had to let him go. I hated to, though. But he just couldn't play, and I didn't have time to take him to the doctor. I had to go to practice, because he'd get hurt then. So senior year came around, and he was still playing basketball and football. The football team the senior year wasn't quite as good as his junior year. I think the competition got better. But he had a great senior year as far as individual awards. D was All-State, back then All-State with one classification. They just picked the best 22 boys in the state, which was a great honor. He was all-conference, anything else you can have in him. He was a male athlete of the year at Holland High School, just a great young man. I didn't know what his future was, but I knew he had a real bright future in whatever he wanted to do as far as an athlete, because he was big and strong and had great manners. I didn't know who he was going to stay or not, because Lou Holtz came up one night at Midway to see him play. And I told D, I said, if you even think about going to state, you won't stop no more. Just that serious, you won't play. I'll make good some story. And they'll quit recruiting. So he promised me he wouldn't go to state. But he did get opportunity. He played the East-West game, played a little tight end, defensive tackle, whatever they needed to play. He got a chance to go to University of North Carolina and had a great 4 years. And with that, I'll let Coach Dooley tell you how good or how bad he was at North Carolina. I appreciate the honor of being able to speak to you. And I'll be back in 158 years.
let's see. We had 20 minutes. Now Dee and I have 1 minute apiece left. I really enjoyed your remarks. I mean, you are a great coach, because when we came down to see Dee was a tailback, then he was a linebacker, then he was a defensive tackle. He played every position on that team, and he was nice, very nice. He'd knock them down, and he'd pick them up. And he did that for 4 years in college also. A real gentleman. But let me add and say that it's a real pleasure for me to be here to help honor a man that I have a great deal of respect for. A tremendous amount of respect for. Because he never changed. No matter what happened, he never changed. He was very even-minded, even-tempered, and he always knocked them down and picked them up, all through college and all through the pros. He did not change. I got to talk about one guy out here, Ricky Packard. Ricky called me up late last week, and he said, Coach, he said, I can get you a free meal. And Ricky's always looking for a free meal. And I said, how's that, Ricky? He said, I want you to come up. Dee Hardison's going to be inducted into the Clinton Hall of Fame. I said, well, that's wonderful. He said, Dee wants either you or me to introduce him. And I said, thought to myself, I said, Ricky hadn't changed one bit. He's going to slip that ball off to me. So, Dee, I'm up here representing Ricky Packard and myself. But how we found out about Dee was Ricky Packard's father, Dr. Packard. He said, you need to come down and look. There's an outstanding athlete down in Hopton. A great athlete. So I had an assistant coach named Pat Watson who recruited this area. He came down, Ricky was with him. He came back, he said, Coach, he said, there's a fella down there that looks like he's been chiseled out of granite. I said, come on. He said, I'm telling you. He said, you won't believe this. I said, okay. So I went down to see Coach Byrd and Dee, and I came back, and he reminded me of Little Abner. Now, some of you may not be old enough to remember Little Abner, and some of you I do know remember Little Abner. He looked exactly like Little Abner. I came back and I said, we are going to sign Little Abner to the University of North Carolina. Another story I'm reminded of is Alan Caldwell, who's sitting out in the audience. He said we had recruiting day, signing day, and everyone came in and signed that they were going to be proud to go to the University of North Carolina. And A.C. Caldwell looked up, and he saw Dee. He said, what position's that guy play? He said, he's a tailback. Alan said, heck, I'm going to be a defensive back. I'm not going to be a running back. And that's a true story, isn't it, Alan? That's how he became an outstanding defensive back. But let me tell you about Dee. He was a unanimous consensus All-American. He made everyone's All-American team. He led the defense that won the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship. He led the defense that led the nation in scoring. Defense most successful against the run, most successful against the pass, and scoring total defense. There is no other school in the Atlantic Coast Conference that's ever accomplished that other than in 1995. That record held for about 20-something years when Florida State accomplished it. And Dee was the man who did a tremendous job up front. And Alan Caldwell will attest, it's a lot better to play pass defense when you've got a Dee Hardison up front. And it's a lot better back in the secondary against the run when you've got a Dee Hardison up front.
And there's no doubt about it that D had a tremendous year in 1977 and went on and signed a pro contract. He signed and played with the University of Buffalo for 3 years. Then he played with the New York Giants for 5 years, San Diego Chargers, and then Kansas City Chiefs. Altogether 11 years in professional football. And I'm proud to say that D. Hardison, when he came in as a freshman and when he left as a senior, was no different. Always a gentleman, always had a smile on his face, always trying to help other people, always very loyal to his teammate and to his university. Coach Watson was a tremendous assistant coach, and he told me about the time he came down to this area, and he had gotten to know D very well because he had recruited him and he had been with him. So D said, Coach Watson, when you come down, he said, sometime go hunting with me. And Pat said, well, he said, D, I'm down there recruiting. I don't know if Coach Dooley would appreciate me going hunting, but I'm supposed to be out there recruiting athletes. He said, Coach, you need to just take the morning off, and that night you can go out and see your prospects. So Pat said, okay, I'll do it. He said, in fact, I know a Carolina alumnus in the area. We can go hunt his farm. So Pat had a pickup truck. He went by and picked up D, and they went off right outside of Clinton, went up to the farmer's house. His name was Mr. Jones. He said, D, you wait here in the truck. I'm going to go up and see Mr. Jones just to make sure that it's okay that we can hunt his property. Well, he did. He was talking to Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones said, listen, I'm very proud of the job y'all are doing up at Carolina. He said, I know this year was an off year, but, you know, you've had some great years in the past, and you're looking forward to the years coming up. And he said, I'll be delighted to have you hunt our farm. And Pat said, well, thank you very much. But as Pat got ready to turn to go down the porch, he said, Pat, will you do me a favor? He said, well, sure, Mr. Jones, if I can. What is it? He said, you see that old mule over there? He said, sure. He said, well, that mule is diseased. And he said, he's in a lot of misery, and I can't bring myself to shoot him, and I can't get my son to shoot him. Would you please shoot that mule and put him out of his misery? He said, oh, I can't do that, Mr. Jones. There's no way I'd shoot that mule. He said, oh, come on, please. He said, it's a special favor. He said, it's like a member of the family, and we can't bring ourselves to shoot. So he said, okay. He said, if it means that much to you, I'll do it. So Pat turned, walked down the steps. He said, I think I'll play a little joke on B. He put a growl on his face, walked up, opened the truck door, and slammed it. He said, what's wrong, Coach Watson? What's wrong? He said, you know, you can't please these alumni. He said, no matter what. And Pat was the offensive coordinator. He said, Carolina's got the worst offense in the country. They can't move the ball on the ground. They can't move the ball throwing. The offense is terrible. And he said, calm down, Coach, calm down. He said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, see that mule over there? He said, I'm going to shoot that. So I said, oh, no, Coach, don't do that. Just calm down. He said, let me tell you something else, Steve. He said, we've got the worst defense in the nation. And he said, I'm going to tell you something else. He said, we got the worst defensive line. You know, D was a defensive lineman. You could see D getting hot under the collar. And he said, you see that mule? He said, I'm going to shoot him. So Pat put the rifle up on the windowsill and bam, bam. And before he could turn around, he heard bam, bam. And it was D. He said, Coach, he said, let's get the heck out of here. I just got 2 cows. That's loyalty. That's the way D was. He was very loyal to his teammates, very loyal to any institution that he represented. Let me say to all of you, it's a real pleasure and privilege for me to come down here and help introduce my old teammate. And I say teammate because that's what I thought he was. Always had a smile on his face. And I will say again, Coach, The thing that we said we got to get D a mean when he came in. But I found out, again, he always knocked them down, and it didn't bother me one bit if he picked them back up. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the committee and everybody for inducting me. And I'd just like to thank Coach Byrd and Coach Dooley for coming down. And that's going to be a hard act to follow. But I'd like to say that I played at Hopton, and I played with a couple of good guys. I mean, this is a great honor, and would have been a great honor. There's some people that I'd like to thank, and Coach Byrd, Coach Dooley are a couple. There are also some people that really instilled some drive and some toughness in me that aren't here anymore. And one was Coach Reverend. Coach Reverend was my high school coach, and he was from the old school, like Coach Dooley was. He taught us. Coach Reverend was a guy that he'd come out, and you'd have a field full of kids that wanted to play football. I thought they did. Well, Coach Brickman, he'd run everybody. He'd run you and run you and run you, and he'd run the ones off that didn't want to play. And the ones that were left were ready to play. And by doing that, he instilled in me hard work. Okay, and I think that was very important. That's the same thing with Coach Dooley. He'd get a team out there, he'd run off the ones that didn't want to play. And my thing was, always work hard. And Coach Brickman, he instilled that in me. Coach Byrd came along, and he was a great coach. Coach Byrd made the game fun. He laughed, he made you laugh, and he made you work hard also. And I always had a good work ethic, so when I went to Carolina, it wasn't that hard on me. Alan, and he knew too, because my freshman year we played pretty good. My sophomore year we had a rough year, and I don't know what the problem was. I don't know. It was just a bad year. So that summer we got together as a team. We decided to work hard and become a better defensive ball club, because we, as a group of guys, knew that if we work hard, we could accomplish something. We got together that summer in the spring ball, the defensive team. Before everything started, what we did was went out and we all shake our heads, okay? And we were completely bald, okay? We did it one night, and we was just a spare moment thing. Everybody said, hey, let's get together, let's do something together. And the next day on campus, there were about 20 guys, we all standing there with hats on, toboggans on, and we sprung on everybody. And everybody's like, look at the Chrome Dogs, But we worked hard that summer. We really, I don't think that the offense got any yards that year, during spring ball. And that made us a better team. And that year, in my junior year, we went out, we played a whole lot better. In my senior year, as Coach Dooley can attest, we won an ACC championship. And, the work ethic was great, and I'd like to, just say, I got my family here tonight, and it's great to have them, my oldest brother's here, and he hasn't been in town in a while, and my son's here, and it's just great to see them all together, and, I think, one person that's not here that really raised the family, she did a great job, my mom passed away a couple of years ago, and, when she first started out, my mom knew nothing about football. She'd come out, she said, I hope my son doesn't get hurt, and she didn't know anything about it, but she'd come every game. And she started learning about football, and she picked it up. And, before she passed, she'd go to a game, and this guy's doing that guy's doing that, he's not dropping deep enough, and she knew the game. And, she raised 6 kids all by herself, and she did an excellent job. And, and I know she's in heaven now, looking down, and she's got a big thumbs up, and she's with Coach Brickman, and they're smiling because they know, that she did a great job, on me. And, I was raised to say yes sir, no sir, and I've always tried to be polite to people. I've always, live, she taught me to, doing to others as you would have them doing to you, And, I miss my mom, but I know, she did a great job with the family, and, and I I'm getting off of that, but because I do miss her, but, I'm going to tell a story about Coach Dooley since he told a few about me. I don't even know if he knows this story, but, Coach Dooley would practice. I mean, rain, storm, anything, we practice outside, And one day, Rob swears this is true. It was thunder and lightning. Okay, it wasn't ready yet, it was thunder and lightning. Coach Dooley walks up to the window, looks out, and big cloud of thunder comes up. He's there for a minute and keeps looking out and says, I think we're going to practice today. We're going to practice. And he's still standing there, and a big thunder and lightning struck somewhere on campus. He looks around and says, well, hell, I guess we'll practice today. But, I played 11 years in the NFL, and, those were great years, and everybody, and I always say, where you from? And, you say New Road. North Carolina, and it's like Alan. I said, when I was in Carolina, I said, where you from? I said, New Road. You always got to say Clinton. I always say Clinton. Everybody knew where Clinton was, So, I want to just thank everybody for coming out, and, this is a great honor. This is one of the greatest honors I've ever had, and, it's great to see some people I haven't seen in 100 years. So, and I hope I'll be back again someday, okay? And thank you. I really appreciate it.
Sent some tickets, and Dean called back, and I picked up the phone, and he said, Dr. Hobbs. I said, Dean, this is Stuart. I grew up a Carolina fan, and Dean Hardison was one of my idols, and looking at Dee and A.C. Caldwell, Ricky Packer, me and Dale seeing if they won't go back up to Chapel Hill, they might could use some help. I think they're all in playing weight right now. But Dee, it's an honor and a privilege as president of the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame to induct you to the 2003 Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame.
Dee, congratulations, and I will say this, if your mother were here, she would be proud of you. She really would. Our next presenters are Willie Jacobs and E.R. Mason. They have a lot in common, not only good friends, but they have been in the teaching profession for over approximately 80 years together. They're teachers, coaches, and friends. They also were loyal friends of our inductee. Mr. Mason was a teacher, coach, athletic director, both at White Oak High School near Jacksonville and Clinton High School, and spent over 45 years in education. Gentlemen.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure and pride that I talk for a few minutes on one of the inductees for the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame. When I was asked to do this task, I readily accepted the honor because truly, Paul J. Williams, who is now deceased, left high standards for all of us to follow in athletics. Paul Williams, a native Clintonian, son of the late George and Lassie Williams, was born on September the 4th, 1930. Paul's mother was a homemaker, and his father a custodian. His family grew to include 2 brothers and 2 sisters. In spite of Paul's meager background, that never deterred him from setting high goals and striving to reach them. The first of those goals was to attend and graduate from high school. Paul accomplished this by attaining his diploma from Sampson County Training School in the spring of 1949. He was a good student, an outstanding football player. He also lettered in basketball and baseball. Paul enrolled in Elizabeth City State College in the fall of 1949. He was pursuing a degree in education when he decided to serve his country in the military. He enlisted in the United States Armed Services in 1951. While in the Army, his travels took him to France, Belgium, Holland, and Germany. During this time, Paul became
became fluent in German. He enjoyed serving his country, but never lost sight of his original intention to become a teacher. He returned to Elizabeth City State College after a 3-year stint in the Army. There he was also an outstanding football and basketball player. He received his bachelor's degree in education in 1956. Paul came back to Clinton to begin his teaching and coaching career at his alma mater, Sampson Training School, later known as Sampson High School. In addition to his teaching duties, he became the athletic director, and he coached football, basketball, and baseball. During his tenure at Sampson High School, Paul became a highly successful coach. He was a mentor and friend to many of the students whom he taught and coached. Coach Williams also coached JV basketball for Clinton High School and basketball for Sampson Middle School. Many of his former players will speak of Paul's humanity. They can tell you how he was willing to go out on a limb for players who needed help. They can tell you how he inspired his athletes by personal example and personal enthusiasm rather than rhetoric and speeches. They can tell you how, as a friend, he was always there when they needed him and always ready to give that helping hand. They can also speak of the respect that Paul Williams commanded from his fellow players, his fellow coaches, and the coaches and players on rival teams. I remember the qualities of concern, calmness under pressure, caring about people, and willingness to give of himself that made him an outstanding coach. Coach Williams' coaching career was exemplary. His football and basketball teams were well known throughout the state of North Carolina. Many rival coaches knew when they played against a Paul Williams team, they knew 3 things. They were facing well-trained, cohesive units, teams that were fired up with enthusiasm and the will to win, and that they were facing teams that played hard, but played with fairness, integrity, and sportsmanship. These were the characteristics of any team that Paul Williams coached, and they were truly the marks of the man himself. Paul Williams knew what he was doing. His outstanding records proved that to his rival coaches. As a coach, he was excellent both in training and strategy. He had the ability to pull teams together into functioning units, which were very hard to stop. For this ability alone, he was respected and admired everywhere. Paul Williams could inspire. He lived football and basketball with a fire and enthusiasm that communicated themselves to his players. They, in turn, became just as enthusiastic, just as ready and willing to give their all, just as fired up and inspired as their coach. Often, this was the winning edge which Paul gave to his teams. Paul Williams was a man of honor. When he won, Paul was the first person to shake the hand of the losing coach. And when he lost, he was also the first to congratulate the winner. When Coach Williams gave his word, you knew that it was done, and no one had any doubt that he would keep his promise. If a player failed, it was Coach Williams and his staff who would be out there to give aid, whether the player would be one of his or one of the opposing team. In short, everyone knew that he was an honorable, caring individual who meant what he said and could be trusted. He communicated his quality to his players, and it was evident in their behavior, both on and off the playing field. After giving so much for so many years, Coach Williams decided that he had even more to give. He set another example, he set another goal, and that was to become a Clinton City Councilor. Like all of the other goals he had set in his life, he also accomplished this one. He ran and became the first black elected city councilor. He also won in his re-election year. Coach Williams' wife, Joyce, his 2 sons, 2 daughters, 8 grandchildren, his former players, former students, co-workers, and his friends can look back on his tremendous accomplishment, knowing not only did he give of himself in such unselfish ways to his students, but to the community as well. He gave the most precious gift that only a person like him could give: his time, his love, and his understanding. Coach Williams worked in athletics, provided us with enjoyment, personal accomplishment, and a sense of pride. The longest part of that pride is our pride that we knew a man of his caliber, a man of his dedication, a man of his integrity. His life was a shining example to young people and all people of Clinton and beyond. We will forever be in his debt, and his love and kindness will forever live in our hearts.
Good evening. Ed, that was a beautiful job. I guess all I need to say is amen. But I just want to make a few remarks concerning Paul Williams. Paul and myself were high school classmates. We played on the same high school football team, where at that time, as the coaches described these positions on the football team, Paul was the fullback, he was the linebacker. And he was just an all-around good guy. We bonded a close friendship during high school, not knowing that a few years afterward, we would be coaching together. I began my career at the old Sampson High School. Paul came the year after. He became the head football and basketball coach, as well as the athletic director. And I was his faithful assistant. We worked hand in hand to produce some very successful teams. We never had a losing season. And as Ed mentioned, all of those qualities about Paul as a coach and as a person, again, I can say amen. He was my friend to the extent that we were almost like brothers. And
his two brothers are here tonight. And I think they would attest to the same thing, that we, Paul and myself, were just about as close as Raymond, Winsome, and Paul. We stuck together until we were separated. He went to Sampson Middle School, and I went to Clinton High School. The friendship never ended until Paul left us. Well, it never ended, because I consider him still a friend of mine. We've talked about what a good coach and athletic person he was. And that's true. But I was talking with a young man about a couple of weeks ago. A person, Dr. John Byrd, some of you know him. We were talking about Coach Williams. And John was in Coach Williams' 8th grade class. And he told me, he said, you know what, Coach? He said, Coach Williams was a good coach. But he was also a darn good teacher. Now, to me, that says something. He was a good teacher. He was a good person. And I know that his family is so proud tonight that he is being considered for this honor. I'd just like to ask all of Paul's family, brothers, children, grandchildren, sisters, all to just stand for a moment, if you will. It is without a doubt that your father, your brother, and of course Joyce, your loving husband, was one of my dearest friends. It will always be until the day that I depart this world. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of you. You're able to witness this occasion. May God bless you.
At this time, I'll ask two young men who were like brothers growing up, well, they were my brothers, Paul and Saul Williams, if they'd come forward. I can see Coach Williams right now, and Kurt Holland can tell you this. He used to sit on that bench and say, shoot, shoot, shoot. And me and Kurt learned quickly that there weren't enough shots out there. We got every one we could. But one thing that, there was three men that influenced me to go into education. And I went into education to coach. One was the late Richard Clell. Richard Clell taught me to respect the game and respect coaching. The other one was Bobby Robinson. And Bobby Robinson taught me knowledge and integrity. He tried to teach me integrity, and he's still working on that. But Bobby Robinson knew the X's and O's as good as anybody, and the integrity of the game. And the other one was Paul Williams. And Paul Williams taught me the passion for the game. He loved coaching, and he loved teaching young people as good as I ever seen anyone. And it's an honor and a privilege to stand before you tonight and induct the late Paul Williams into the 2003 Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame.
Paul for being up here with me today. I want to thank Mr. Mason and Mr. Jacobs for those words. tell you, being a coach's son and playing for my father was tough. It was real tough. I want to thank you for recognizing the Williams family, everybody. I truly thank you for being here today. Good evening, everyone. My family and I would like to thank everyone that was involved with nominating my father to the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame. I personally want to thank all the parents, teachers, his colleagues, friends, and especially athletes that played for him. He could not have achieved this honor without the support from the community and the dedication of his players. I wish that he could have been here to receive this honor personally. My father loved to coach, but more than just coaching, he loved to be around children. He was truly a great coach. I could stand up here all day and talk about my father. I just wish I could hear him say one more time, out loud, from the sidelines of the basketball court. Again, I want to thank the Sampson County Sports Club for honoring him. My family and I are truly grateful for you honoring him this way. May God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Mason, I do want to say this, two of the best athletes I've ever seen in Sampson County played at Sampson High School. And one of them's here tonight. Now with Raymond Williams to stand up, and the other one's James McGatt. Raymond Williams. I asked Raymond when he came in tonight if he still run, he said he couldn't hardly walk. Our next presenter is Hank Gay. Hank is the oldest of three children of Nathan and Faye Gay. He's a graduate of Union High School where he played football for his father and attended many summer ball camps. In 1990, he graduated from UNC Wilmington after receiving a degree in business management. He married to the former Sue Herrion, and they have one son, Nathan Warren. Presently, Hank is employed with S&W Ready Mixed Concrete. I present to you Mr. Hank Gay.
Good evening. Mr. Johnson, if we're running short on time, I'm doing that. Me and Mr. B have something in common when it comes to speeches. No, it is truly an honor to be here tonight. In the fall of 1964, my parents moved to Sampson County. At that time, Mr. Claude Moore was the principal down here in high school. And he taught my dad in coming down and coaching high school football, girls and boys basketball, and baseball. The deal was he would stay here for 2 years. And the 2 years turned into 20 as coach. And from 1984 to 2002, he was the county athletic, transportation, and driver's education director for the Sampson County Schools. And currently, he's enjoying retirement and being a full-time granddad. His first year at Union, I heard him say many times that he thought it would be his last. The first day of football practice, he had 2 players show up. And in that same year, he finished 0-10. He was the head football coach there until 1973. And he posted a record that year of 8-2. Although he enjoyed coaching football, his passion was coaching basketball. During his 20-year career, he had 398 wins, 127 losses, And from 1968 to 1972, their conference record was 51-4. He had 15 conference championships, 5 district championships, 5 district runner-ups, 3 state third-place finishes, and 2 state runner-ups. And some of his personal accomplishments included 10 Coach of the Year awards, being selected as coach for the East All-Star team, and the dedication of the Union High School Gymnasium in his name in 1991. He was also instrumental in establishing the annual football jamboree and the Holiday Classic here in the county, which is held annually. During his 20 years as coach, not only did he develop winning athletes, but he developed winning attitudes among his students. His dedication to his work and the examples that he has set for young men and women have had a lasting impact in the community. At this time, while I was doing some research, I have 2 letters that I'd like to share with you. The first one was from his high school principal. And he was the gentleman that truly inspired him to become a coach. Dear Nathan, boy, I'm proud of you. What a career. You didn't tell me the gym was named for you. I had a lot of young men to graduate in my 20 years as high school principal. You were always at the top of his list, at the top of my list. I know the young folks you have guided have a special spot in their heart for you. Sampson County has been indeed fortunate to have your talents all those years. Character is the making of a man. You were never short on character. While other young men dream things to get into, you always look for the positive, which didn't mean you weren't one of the boys. It takes a special kind of man to mingle with those from all walks of life, just as it does to know when to say no and when to guide. As you heard me say many times, it is a long ways over Fool's Hill. Some fools make it, some don't. You never had to climb it. Fondly, Ryuse. The next letter is from one of his football players. He did coach 8th grade football, 7th and 8th grade football a few years. The most memorable football season I ever had in 11 years as a player was the year I was in 8th grade. That year we won every game but 2. We tied Sampson Middle School once. We also beat them once. And Hopkins JV beat us once. We beat them once, and they had drunk, cheating referees that enabled them to beat us once. We were the county champs. Coach Gay didn't fuss at us. As a matter of fact, he would smile when he told you to run a lap. He acted almost unconcerned at practices and games. Coach Gay had one thing that separates him from other coaches: his delivery. He knew how to talk and how to get you performing. And when he coached, his players performed. After reading several articles dating back to 1964, there was always one common thread. He always expressed his appreciation and support from the parents and the community. And attributes a lot of his success to that. For that, he is truly thankful. For all he has done and continues to do, Union High and Sampson County are better places today. I present to you Nathan Gay.
It's indeed an honor to be up here tonight. Coach Byrd basically started about the same time, and he's got 150 years, I'm going to tell you why. The Hardison I was head football coach, and Coach Tim Leadbacker somewhere, he was my defensive coach playing hockey. We knew it was going to be the Ricky Knowles, D. Hardison show. Ricky Knowles went on to play the state. But that was the deal. Okay, Coach Lee, what we'll do? All right, D, we got to stop D. So that was all week long. D defense, D. Okay. We kicked off in the end zone. Okay, Holland takes it on the 20. The first play, this is honest truth. Do you know how far D ran? 80 yards. That's the honest truth. I'm going to let Coach Byrd tell you who won the ball game. I'm not. But being in Sampson County, Hank, you know why I cut his grass every week now. And Mr. Fest, I see him looking up here. Mr. Fest already told me you get 10 minutes. I said, Mr. Fest, it'll take you 10 minutes to tell you about my grandson. He said, well, hey, I'll tell you what to do. Take 20 and tell them about my grandson too. But here's the deal on that. Dr. Hobbs, he killed that idea. But at that time, Dr. Hobbs had signed his contract, so there was nothing I could do about it. If it had been 2 days before, I had him. But Coach Byrd really wanted to know what I was doing up here with everybody else. And I looked around and checked it out. I know why. Every one of them, either playing against me or coaching against me, they all picked up a W, a win. So that's my deal. And Hank told you about being in Sampson County. It's been great. When Faye himself came down, I didn't even know where Cleveland was. Sampson County, never heard of it. But I can remember one thing. Back then, remember the good old days, fellas, all you teachers remember this, the local board didn't decide who was the coach, teaching, everything else. So Claude Moore said, come on now, let's go home. I said, Mr. Moore, I'm at home. We were running on a practice. Oh no, come on, go down the tunnel. I couldn't. All I got there to go around the courthouse down there. That's all I know about it. But anyway, we come down here, and I can remember that local board right there sitting in there, and Tony Denton sitting back there somewhere. They said, can you beat Midway? I never heard of Midway. I said, sure, we can beat them, yeah. Not knowing that Walter Reagan was up there, and that would take a long time. But this is honest truth here, too. Mike Bass, back when he was playing, he was a freshman then, and I imagine Mike's a good fit now. But we were riding back home. I picked him up to go to ball practice, and he said, Coach, I'll tell you one thing. You're coaching everything now, but if you ever get a chance, jump on basketball, because we love basketball. And he says, I'll tell you another thing. We never going to be playing out football. I said, yeah, that's I understand all that. Bob Robson, he said, but you know one thing? We can get them in basketball. So after that, everything turned, basically speaking, to basketball. And I see Ricky sitting over there, and Coach Dooley, I don't know if Ricky ever told you or not, but Ricky would bring the football team down to play basketball. And we played the basketball games, some of the former players, just to raise money for our program. And Ricky did a good job playing, and let me tell you this, we packed the gym for a Carolina football game, right, Rick? I don't know if you pack it down or not, but subject, Dr. Packer, Ricky's father, boy, he was a great inspiration to me and a lot of players that came along with him, and I wish Doc was here tonight. And he's already mentioned Claude Moore and Ryuse Aldridge, by the way, he was the superintendent of Hood County later on. I think have Gaston on the basketball practice, and he was a great inspiration. The 20 years at Union, it was great, and I saw some of the former coaches here that helped me out. I spotted Wallace Aaron back in there. I remember that. A lot of you know Wallace Aaron. Tim Lee, Mr. Mason, you don't admit it. Yeah, Mr. Mason was with me. And is Dr. Larry Dale here? Yeah, he was with me. So see, I had a lot of good people around, and I know that's why I'm here. It's no being around the bush. I'm here because I was always surrounded by good people. There's no doubt about it. And that because my family over here. Family, please stand up. I won't run through the news everybody, but Faye, girls, my grandson, all my family over here. From the crowds. And I certainly appreciate that. Real quick, all of the former athletes that I had, girls and boys that played for me, would you stand real quick? All former ball players. There we go. What inspiration, they've already told me, they're the reason I'm up here, and I appreciate that. The Union High boys basketball team, this year's team is back there. Stand up, fellas, please. I told the boys, it almost makes me cry to you the truth. 40 years ago, I started right there. Those boys are filling in for me, so you don't think you can't be replaced. You get replaced very quickly. And I appreciate you guys coming. And now my extended Sampson County family. I told you we didn't know soul when we got here. All you folks that bow around with me and good friends, the school personnel, and everybody, please stand. Miss Anna was over there. Anna took us in. She was our mother down here, and she's really inspired us and taken care of us. So now I'll say that after 20 years in the coaching business, and then 20 years dealing with Jimmy Byrd and the rest of the coaches in Sampson County and also in Clinton City. You fellows stand. Any coaches here from the county or the city, school system. All these fellows, I worked with them for 20 years, and Hank told me they helped start the football jamboree, the basketball tournament, and Byrd was right about the officiating. If you came to Union, Mr. Wright tell him you got treated right? We try to make the officials so that they won't come back. Not like Byrd trying to run them off. But anyway, I like to thank you, and I'd like to thank Mr. Best and Dr. Hobbs and all the board of directors of the sports club and everyone that made this possible tonight. I certainly appreciate it. I know my family does, and thank you very much.
Coach K. He started the Jamboree, him and Bob Lewis, several years ago. And then last year he said, let's start a basketball tournament. And so we didn't know what to name it. So we said we named it Nathan Gay Holiday Classic. And it was a big success. I was meeting with the coaches that night, and I said, all right, coaches, we're looking at sponsors. And they said, well, how much money do you have to give? And I said, well, you can give $250 on up to $5,000. They said, what do they give? I started telling them, I said, now, if they give anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, we'll change the name of the tournament. So anybody out there wants to give that money, you can have it. But it is an honor and a privilege. Coach Gay's been a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and is now one of my bosses. And we started planning this long before he signed that contract. Believe me, y'all probably read about that. But it is an honor and a privilege to induct Coach Nathan Gay, 2003 Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame.
Nathan Gay is one of the great public servants in Sampson County. Congratulations. Our next presenter is Jack Murdock. Still call him coach even after 42 years. He is a graduate of Raleigh-Broughton High School, attended Wake Forest University where he played basketball and baseball. He coached here in 1959 and 60, and I never will forget, you showed us the film of the 1957 Carolina game in which you fouled Tommy Kearns, and they went on to be undefeated. You still complaining about that. He went on to coach, left here and went to coach at Wake Forest University. He's a par golfer. I've seen him throw a football over 60 yards. He can punt a football forever. I've seen him put a blindfold on and shoot 10 out of 10 foul shots. Jack Murdock.
Dale got to tell you, he said you're limited to 20 minutes. Well, this is the third Hall of Fame Terry Holland's been inducted into the Davidson Hall of Fame, the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame 2 years ago, and at that one he talked for 1 hour. If we were having trouble getting the ball to Terry, I would send in Dale, let him shoot so Terry could get the rebound. I don't know how some of you feel, but for a while here, I thought I was over in Chapel Hill sitting around the old well getting ready to sing Hardison. I have never in my life. We got a lot of Wake Forest people here. But gee. It's nice to see you, Bill Dooley. Bill Dooley beat Wake Forest like a drum, and then all of a sudden he left VPI and came to Wake Forest. After he beat Carolina that third time, he didn't smell like he'd gone over there before, not one bit. In fact, we grew to love him. Came out of Keenan Stadium the third year he was coaching, and some Wake Forest guy in front of me said, "That's 3 in a row." And if they come out of there Saturday, they got a chance to say the same thing. Dale, I just want to tell you there are 2 men in North Carolina, Billy Graham and John Bunning, the coach of Carolina. They're the only 2 men that can get 50,000 people at one time to stand up and say, "Jesus Christ." House in front of the gymnasium. I left home, got to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, and got home about 9 o'clock at night. I coached JV football, coached Trent Holland, Terry's brother, JV football. I had to scout every Friday night for the varsity football team. Coached varsity basketball, JV baseball, varsity golf. I had a home room, I had a study hall, I taught 2 classes of American history, 2 classes of civics, a class of economics, sociology for $3,600. A car payment was $90. Terry played 3 sports at Clinton. He was an end on the football team, run like a deer, just run and run and run, and fast. He'd block, he'd tackle. He could have played football in college. He was a kind of basketball player. Anything you asked him to do, he would do. You never had trouble coaching Terry Holland. The only trouble I had was keeping Ann away from him. She'd come and sit in the gym and sit up in the stands and watch him practice. He didn't pay much attention to me after that. About halfway through the year, I got a call from Bose McKinney. And he said they were losing an assistant coach at Wake Forest, and would I be interested in coming up there next year? And I've been telling him about Terry, and I told him, yeah, I'd like to come up there. I want to tell you, you better come down here and get this guy. Well, the person that came down to watch him play, Terry, he got 30 points and 19 rebounds. And Bones McKinney messed around until Lefty Frizzell came down here. And Terry became Lefty's first recruit. So Robert Boone and William and Wilbert Faircloth and I went to Wake Forest the next year, and Terry went to Davidson. At that time, Wake Forest was the only Big Four team that would play Davidson. Davidson had Hetzel Boy, Davidson Boy, Don Davidson, and they beat us every game we played. The year we were number 3 in the nation after going to the Final Four. Davidson had beaten us. And Terry, I don't know if there was a side of him that I had never seen, but although it was mad at us or not, but he's the player that beat us every year. He was the player. I thought he was going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Last thing I thought Terry Holland would become would be a basketball coach. He was an assistant under Lefty Frizzell when he got out of Davidson. And then he became a head coach, 6 years, 92 victories, 43 defeats. He was 3 times in 6 years Southern Conference Coach of the Year. He won 4 Southern Conference championships. He went to Virginia, and he was there 16 years as the head coach. 326 victories, 173 losses. Took his team to the NCAA tournament 9 times. 1976, he won the ACC championship. He went back to Davidson after that as the AD, and then to Virginia as the AD. He's currently the assistant to the president of the University of Virginia. I saw you standing on the sidelines last Saturday at NC State. Where was the president? I bet he was hot. I have two bad regrets in my athletic involvement. In 1957, the University of North Carolina beat Wake Forest 4 times on the way to an undefeated season. The year before, we had beaten them in the ACC tournament by 22 points. They were number 4 in the nation. The year before that, we beat them in the ACC tournament by 19 points. They beat us 4 times in 1957 by 8, 5, 3, and 2. The other regret I have was that Terry Holland did not go to Wake Forest. If he had gone to Wake Forest, the year we came in 3rd in the Final Four, in my opinion, we'd have won, because we had nobody that could rebound and score and as tough as he was. In my opinion, in somebody's athletic career, as a player, a coach, and an athletic director on the highest level, Terry is the best native born of those in our history. Terry Holland.
Now you know why we still call him coach. Because you talk about a great athlete who was also a great competitor, and that was Jackie Murdock. He taught us how to win. And it's one thing to teach the game,
We knew how to play when he came here, but he taught us how to win. And I can assure you that's been a big part of the kind of attitude that I've had during my coaching career. He was very nice tonight because actually my freshman year, his freshman team tore us apart at Davidson. And the next year, the chaplain and those guys, they beat us by about 50. Now we did get them after that, but it took us a while to get going at Davidson. And Dale Johnson, boy, it is great to know that the ball's not going to go in the basket. I mean, as a rebounder, you know you can go right after it. It's not going in and Dale shooting. So that's how I got 19 rebounds that night. Dale missed 19 shots. And I knew he was going to miss them, so I was right there ready to rebound the basketball. I'd first of all like to thank Mr. Turlington and the Sampson County Sports Club. You do have a great tradition, and as the years go on and you learn more and more about what has happened, and many of you know a lot of the athletes, but you don't know them all. But when you learn what has happened here in this county over the years, you're going to be very, very proud, even prouder than you are right now, because we have had some truly outstanding athletes and administrators in this county. I want to take a little bit of credit for Walker Bellamy's career, because he'd still be running the gas station if he and his dad hadn't hired me. The sorriest employee they ever had. So they had to do something else, so he got into recreation at that time. So I do take a little bit of credit for you, even Walker, but I do appreciate it. What a great opportunity. Think about how fortunate I've been. They paid me to do something that I would have paid to do. Coach basketball. I've gotten to go all over the world, all over this country, from East Coast to West Coast, coaching basketball games. I've gotten to go to Australia, I've gotten to go to France, I've gotten to go to Japan, I've gotten to go to Hawaii. One of those times was a lot of fun, but we did get to go to Hawaii lots of times. We had a great time coaching and playing basketball. A wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Been to a lot of high-profile events. Was chairman of the men's basketball committee. Picks the teams for the NCAA tournament. I was actually on the senior men's basketball committee for USA Basketball. We selected dream teams 2 and 3 to play in the World Championships and then in the '96 Olympics down in Atlanta. So, you know, I've seen a lot of the world, and athletics has given me a chance to do that. I've received a lot of recognition. But the one thing that I've always remembered that Coach Murdoch taught us was that the difference between success and failure, the difference between winning and losing, was always something very small. Sometimes you didn't even know what it was. What really made it happen. It might be on a basketball team, it might be the 3rd string point guard who never lets the All-American point guard take a day off. Because even though he's never going to play a minute, he's never going to get his name in the newspaper, he gives it everything he's got every single day in practice. And he's actually one of the big reasons the other guy's an All-American. And he's a big part of the reason why your team is good. Well, that's what the folks in this room here are tonight. You're that behind the scenes, the ones who don't get the recognition, but you never know what you've accomplished until you get a chance to visit an evening like this. And it really is something special. And how many people out there touch each life in this community? I'm a perfect example of it takes a village to raise a child. I don't think there's any question about that. If you could have seen me as a high school sophomore, so skinny, I couldn't even stand to go out on the court with those skinny legs, knowing that everybody was going to be looking at me. Couldn't stand up in front of a group of people and talk. So if this community can inspire, encourage, and support someone to have the chance to do the things I've done in life, you should be awfully proud of that. Because that's why it happens. It happens because of people like the people in this room, and many others that can't be here tonight. It starts with family, obviously. I lived in a great era. Things were real simple. If my mother said, Michael Terrence Holland, if they called you by all three names, you knew what was coming next, right? Give me a switch. And those dreaded words, I could pick a skinny one, I could pick a long one, I could pick a short one, I could pick a fat one. It didn't matter what I picked. But my mother taught me to sing and dance around the kitchen table, hanging on to one of my hands, as that other one was a swinging that switch. And the worst thing you could ever hear, because my dad left at 5 o'clock every morning and went to work, and he got in at 10. So the very worst thing you could hear, worse than that even, worse than getting a switch was, wait till your daddy gets home. And it wasn't complicated. There was no trial. There was no jury. There was no getting off on a technicality. Can you imagine? And those of you who know Mr. Percy Holland, he was ready to go to work already the next day. So when he took his belt out, you might be saying, Daddy, I didn't do it. You might have the dream team of Johnny Crockman and F. Lee Bailey there. But about the only thing they could do is make an objection and say, well, Mr. Percy, you didn't see him do it. It's possible he didn't. He would have worn them out so badly that maybe he would have been too tired to give me the whipping I deserved after he got through with them. But that was the world we lived in. And it was not a very complicated world. And everyone here was a part of that. And they really were. How'd you like to have a brother like Trent? I mean, Trent kept you on your toes. He fought me for everything. It didn't matter. We'd fight over whose toothbrush it was, who's supposed to take out the garbage, who's supposed to do what, but we fought over everything. But wait, what great competition. I mean, we really did. And our mother several times threatened to call the police. We knew she was bluffing. Thank goodness. But we do have a lot of family here tonight because Walker Bellamy married one of my cousins. I tried to make them kissing cousins, but somehow he got in that family of girls, and he never came out. Gene got hold of him. But let's ask all the Hollands, the Daltrys, and the Bellamys, and everybody with that kind of blood in them to stand up, please. It is to be somewhere where people know you. I thought that until I came in tonight and I heard people say, what is the Food Line man doing here tonight? And I finally found out the way to get people to know me in this community was to explain to them, well, I'm Katie Johnson's son-in-law. So I'd like to introduce Miss Katie Johnson, who taught us all so many lessons and has taught me so many lessons over the years. And of course, her lovely daughter Ann, who I chased, and Dale actually is going to take credit for this, so I might as well tell the truth. Fisher Drive was the greatest place ever. I don't know why you ever left there, Walker. Because that's where I met Ann. And it was only because I was old enough to drive, and Dale came over and commandeered my car and he used Ann as bait to get my car that night, to get me to drive him around town, and he said, and Ann Johnson will be your date. And sure enough, I fell for it, and I'm still falling for it. So Ann, if you'll please stand up. I do want to say again, you know, what you folks do, sometimes you just don't realize the kind of impact you're having on someone's life. And if you think about it, no man ever stands as tall is when he stoops to help a child. And that's what this community certainly means to me and my family and so many others. And I'm always proud that everywhere I've been, whether it was in Japan or Australia or at a White House state dinner, everybody always asked me where I was from. And I was always proud to say, Clinton, that's in Sampson County, and that's in eastern North Carolina. And it's a special place, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and thank everyone for all that you've done for athletics and for the young people of this community in so many different ways. It means a great deal to all of us. Thank you.
One more thing, because Kurt Greer used to always want me to go to Charlottesville to the ball game, but I'd always say, Terry still got that dog he named after Dean Smith. I can't go there, just got that. But it's a great honor. It always makes me proud every time I turn on the TV and see a Sampson County boy making it big and coaching, and made us very proud. Terry, as president of the Sampson County Sports Club, it's an honor to induct you tonight, November 5th, 2003, to the Sampson County Sports Hall of Fame. And Terry's right. Miss Katie, keep him straight. I went to Miss Katie tonight, and I said, Miss Katie, she said, congratulations, I heard the news about you becoming superintendent. I said, Miss Katie, don't you want to come back to school? She said, I'd love to come back to school. I'd love to come back teaching. I said, if I just could see real good, I'd be right there. She said, I love it. Miss Katie did. Y'all all remember her. She's an outstanding lady. Appreciate you coming tonight. Hasn't it been a wonderful night, Porch Club 2003?